Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. Here, did not do that again. I just won't do it. I refuse. I refuse. Even though it's a nice song, whenever for some reason I can never remember to click the search. It always wants to repeat. It's very annoying to me, but we got a great show for you tonight. I have two wonderful guests. I couldn't think of anybody better to have this conversation with. As you know from the interview room, Chris McDonough, a semi-retired homicide detective. We got Buddy in the background. God knows what he's up to. Was he licking his paws back there?
He's licking something. I'm not sure.
It's best not to check.
Yes. Close your eyes.
I just let it be. And by the way, been watching you cover this case, the Nancy Guthrie case. Fantastic perspective, fantastic guests, and so if you have not gone over to the interview room, go over there and sub up. We'll run the channel in the chat. You have a show tomorrow at 5, I believe.
Well, it's 8 Eastern. Yeah,
8 Eastern. Okay, so that would be, I don't know.
Depends on where you're at. 5 Pacific, 6 Central.
6 Central, Mountain Time or whatever.
Yep, Mountain Time. Yep.
And we have Detective John Lamb in the house. He's a. I just found out that he's a Padre fan, so he went down just like a tiny notch, not a lot. I mean, I don't hold it against him. Bad taste is something that you can't help. Okay, right, John. I think that, but I am excited. It's baseball season. And how are you, John? Thank you for being here, and I appreciate you coming on as well.
It's my pleasure, and as you can see, I'm not wearing a Padres cap because. Well, I've been living here in Virginia. I followed the Nationals, and they won the World Series in 2019, and haven't been relevant since. But
yeah. I know what that feels like. It's like the Giants when they won the 3 World Series in 5 years, and then haven't made the playoffs. I don't know.
I don't think the Giants have ever made the playoffs, have they?
Well, I can tell you this, Chris. I know the Padres have never won the World Series.
Oh, they got close, though. They've been very close.
Oh, yeah. They got swept by the Yankees. I remember that. Let's see.
And they lost 4-2 to the Detroit Tigers in 1984.
Them too. Yeah. So
that was Kirk Gibson hit the home run, I think, right?
Well, that's correct. It's Goose Gossage.
If you consider that close, then I don't know what to tell you. But
I don't know what to say.
That was easy.
Oh man, that's so yeah, guys. It's good to see you guys. Thank you so much for being here on this
invite, Josh and
love having you guys on. And this case, this Nancy Guthrie case, is stranger than fiction, and it gets a little more odd every day. But you know, we were just talking behind backstage, and you know, my first question to you guys, and I'll let you answer it, is this case slowing down? And Chris or John, either one.
No, I think this thing is cooking. And I think the feds, the FBI, and the local agencies are working together. I think a lot of the noise has now subsided, i.e. the ransom letters and all that stuff that was, hocus pocus. And I think the investigation's full speed ahead. And in my opinion, I think it's a homicide investigation from day one.
Homicide. Okay. What about you, John? How do you feel about it? You don't feel it's slowing down, or you do?
No, I don't feel it's slowing down. Maybe the sense of that is that there's less information coming out, which I think is a good thing. And I'm going to say I concur with Chris. I don't believe this was ever a kidnapping for ransom. I believe whatever order you want to take it, whether it was enter the residence, abduct to remove, or terminate the life inside the house and remove, I think that the ransom demands have been really camouflage.
Yeah. Do you think they're related at all, or is it? Do you think that it's just like a sideshow for somebody to, distract, or is this a distraction from the perpetrators themselves?
We don't know that. We know that there are foreign governments who like to enter into the internet and YouTube, and I could conceivably see somebody deciding from anywhere in the world, let's throw a monkey wrench in this. Let's turn this into a psyops. And then you don't even need to go across the borders here. There are just people who maybe are opportunists who thought they would have the chance to get some Bitcoin. But as I think I said last time on your show, kidnapping for ransom is an extraordinarily rare crime in the United States. And we would have anticipated that a demand note, a ransom note, would have arrived within 24 to 48 hours. And plus there would have been proof offered that Ms. Guthrie was still alive.
And if you just, to dovetail into what John's saying, is if you just go back to just go back to basics. Okay. Basics, investigations 101. When all this other stuff, this other noise, and, we're, in the 21st century now, this is a whole new dynamic that comes to the table here with all of this, with social media, with all of the other, you're competing as an investigator with the world. Okay. And all the opinions in that world come into play. Okay. So this is why it's even really, really super important for investigators in today's world, for lack of a better term, to listen to the old timers, because we didn't have that crap and we didn't have all that noise. And so we used a lot more critical thinking, for lack of a better term. We didn't have technology, we didn't have sniffers. We didn't have any of that stuff.
Right.
The only thing we had was your ability to interview, observe, follow up, interview, observe, and then make sense of it. And you get these, you get this sense as the investigation's going on. Okay. And so let's take that principle for a moment. And John and I have actually taught a class in DC. Where was it? Maryland, Johnny?
La Plata, Maryland.
Yeah. So years ago, we taught a class on basic homicide investigations to, the Maryland. It was a regional class.
Charles County Sheriff. Well, it was the law enforcement agencies of Charles County, Maryland.
Yeah. And so, and we brought them back into this idea of, look, here are the fundamentals. Okay. Don't leave the fundamentals when all the other noise is happening, because, unfortunately in Southern California, even though we were 32 miles from the border, we had a lot of volume and we had a lot of high profile stuff. Okay. A lot. And so, I mean, with Orange County as our neighbor and then LA County as that neighbor, right? And if you look at everything coming south, once you get past that Santa Onofre checkpoint and there's that blank space of I-5 past San Clemente, well, you hit our town. And so we had every Crip, every Main Street gangster, every Hoover, every, rolling 60s, rolling 30s, you name it. They were all coming south from LA to do dope and all this other stuff. And then if you were in San Diego as a whole at the border, San Ysidro at the furthest point, everybody that went north running. They had to stop in our town because there was a how many mile gap, John, between Oceanside
It was a 17-mile gap to the San Onofre checkpoint, but Oceanside acted as like a drain catch on Interstate 5. And whichever way it was going, they'd end up, plus the number of recent parolees that, for whatever reason, let's send them to Oceanside.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys must have loved that.
Well, it was great. It was great training. It was great job security. Okay. And when you think about it, okay, and in our team, right, there were only 7 of us in our team. Okay. Now, I can't remember how many investigators we had. SES, we had property, we had family protection, elder abuse, and the list goes on. So there were a lot of investigators, but there were only 7 in CLV, in homicide, crimes of violence. We worked all robberies, all homicides, and, all major violent crimes, officer-involved shootings, et cetera. So you get a lot of experience. You may not necessarily be the case agent, but you may be, second to that guy. You may handle the crime scene. You may handle, all the different, right, there are different roles for each person. So, but you cohesively work collectively as a team. And, that team approach in our time, gave us about a 90% solvability rate. But it didn't mean we could put the handcuffs on you. It just means we knew who you were, and eventually DNA or something was going to catch up to you and it would be resolved. And we're starting to see the fruits of that today.
Yeah.
Back in the day. So if we go back to these fundamental principles, like I was mentioning here for a second, is this idea of an 84-year-old woman in her home, sound asleep, dropped off by her son-in-law, or the daughter and the son-in-law. That's a little confusing from the sheriff's part again, right? And keep me honest, John. And
they haven't said one way or the next. That still is up in the air. And I would add, Chris, before you proceed, just one comment. Yeah. We don't know that that's when she exited the vehicle. We have statement from witness, but do we know that for an incontrovertible fact?
Yeah, exactly. And so we go back to fundamentals. And then we ask ourselves, right, why in the world would anybody choose Miss Guthrie, 84 years old, high maintenance, uses a cane, she can't even hear, and decide, you know what, here's a good idea. her daughter's super famous. So let's go take the mom. Let's steal the mom at 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever it's going to be. And then hold her for ransom. Okay. And here we are 21 days now into this thing. Okay. Or if you look at the heat map, what we would call it, around the amount of crime that's in the Tucson area, there's 6,000 to 8,000 burglaries in that area. There are parolees, there's, folks that are tweaking, there's fentanyl problems, there's all kinds of stuff, okay? And I just had 2 of the guys from Tucson at a class that the Cold Case Foundation did, and they were from their cold case squad at Tucson PD. They have 400 unsolved cold cases right now. 400. All right. That's a lot of cold cases. All right. Now that's over the years. And the reason for that is because of the terrain, right? It's a high mountainous terrain. You can dump a body. You'll never find the body sometimes. Sometimes you will if you get lucky. But when you start thinking about that, you have to then step back and say, well, was the house the target? Did they go to the house to break into the house? And that's maybe where the sheriff was thinking of, this is a burglary gone wrong. Okay. I don't think it was a burglary gone wrong. And hang on for a minute. I'm going to step off here just for a second while I fix the movie going on in the background. I'll be right back.
Oh, that was too good.
That's got to be highlights. I'll jump in while Chris handles the enchanted evening moment. The thing about burglaries is that nighttime burglaries into occupied residences are not super common. And let's go back to the video of the guy wearing the mask. Nighttime burglars don't wear ski masks, because part of the what we used to call in Southern California and in Oceanside, they were hot prowl burglaries, cat burglaries.
Yeah.
It's your ability to enter the house quietly and silently and to be able to hear if the people in the house awaken so that you can then run. This is one of the, and it requires a nighttime burglary of a home requires some very real skill that most meth freak burglars are incapable of doing. And it often it carries enhanced penalties. So why do a house that may or may not have what it is you want in it when you can hit a business? So,
right.
But I'm going to go back to Chris talking about the cold cases now.
Yeah, sorry. I worked in Vice, as you guys remember.
Are you over the hump?
I'm going to make either that, or I could make you go viral completely with the Jack Russell Terrier. And I don't think you're into that game. So anyway, I forgot where I was. I saw him in the background. I'm like,
you were talking about 400 cold cases in Tucson.
Oh yeah, Tucson. Yeah, Tucson. Sorry. And so if we go back and we start asking this question about, hey, wait a minute. If the sheriff is thinking, well, we think this is a burglary gone wrong. So are they thinking that the house was selected and not Nancy? Okay, that's one thought process I think we need to explore. Okay, because that may be what they're hinting, right? Now, to John's point, the fact that he's wearing a mask, and you look at all the video that's available in that, that people are coming up with and putting online, every one of those guys in those videos are not wearing a mask. They're not covering their faces.
Yeah.
Because, to John's point, hot prowl burglars, are rare enough in them in of itself, but at the same time, you know, they're not known to the people that the houses they're breaking in. They, you know, so their risk level, they're not even thinking about that risk level. So one of the fundamentals that I always stay with in my thought process is what risk levels is the victim at, and that comes through the victimology, and then what risk level is the suspect at in terms of what is he willing or she willing to do to either raise or lower that risk. And, you know, John and I have talked, you know, offline, as well as many other people. And we're all of the opinion that somebody just didn't wake up that day and decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead and manage, you know, an 84-year-old woman, and at, you know, 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then keep her for the next 20, 30 days, whatever it's going to take to pay a ransom. I don't know. It's not made sense to me from day one.
Well, another thing too is, you know, in a lot of these cases, motive. I've always thought, you know, motive. You don't have to prove motive in a court of law and stuff like that. But in this case, motive is going to be really important because it doesn't make a lot of sense why an 84-year-old woman would be targeted, or the target of a homicide, or the target of an abduction, or the target of, you know, anything besides maybe a home invasion. But a lot of people are just saying, you know, we don't believe it's a home invasion. We don't believe a random home invasion. I've been of the thought that it possibly, maybe they knew who she was, that she had a safe in the house. They wanted her to open the safe. It did, you know, something bad happened during the commission of the crime, and then they get rid of someone's body because, and people would say, well, why would there be a homicide, and why would you just not leave the body and take off? And because personally, and you guys know this better than anybody, bodies tell stories. They solve crimes, and it's much more difficult to solve a crime when you don't have a body. So that would be a good reason, don't you think, John?
That enters into an area of what is it you imagine was in the house? Where did that information come from? Because it just didn't. I tell you, in all my years in police work, I only saw one residential home intrusion robbery that wasn't drug related. If you see a home intrusion robbery, the odds are really almost inevitable that it's either the people that got robbed were selling drugs or had money. That's what your average home intrusion robbery is. They're dope rips. I saw precisely one that occurred in our city of Oceanside where they went in saying, "Where's the safe?" And we were not, you know, these were not Ivy League burglars because they got the wrong house. And so they terrorized this old couple. They never found the safe because there wasn't one. We know that, and as the investigation proceeded, the house that did have the safe was connected to the suspect. So we've got to assume that this is someone who is aware of what's in that house. We also have to weigh in that the house itself, which at this point I believe is worth $1.1 million, but has 3 separate mortgages on it. Is there going to be that sort of money in that house? I mean, what's the likelihood of that? The next thing is are you willing, if you're willing to go in and force your victim to identify the location of the safe, and we're speculating there's a safe, then you're also automatically buying into the fact that you're going to injure the person. And so you seldom see that level of both commitment to cause and intellect with your average crooks, which goes back to what Chris and I have been saying, which is the goal was not to steal something, or I've read people saying, oh well, it was just a random house they picked. Chris talked about the burglaries. If you look at the burglary pattern, I would be willing to wager there isn't a single nighttime residential burglary occurring in Catalina Hills. And when one suddenly happens, it happens to be her. I don't believe in coincidences.
Right. Well, and that's sort of why when I was kind of hypothesizing about this, is that I see people say, well, cat burglars don't take people, and I'm not talking about a cat burglar. I'm talking about a targeted invasion, planned out. Go in, hey, open your safe. If you don't open your safe, it's and that's what I meant.
If we speculate that there's a safe, but the other thing is this: the moment you decide to move a body, whether living or dead, you increase your logistic problems exponentially. Because we said before air.
Yes, you increase your but if leaving a body at the scene, if there's a struggle, also increases your chances of being caught through DNA, through medical examiner, and things like that. So I get what you're saying, but so basically what you're saying is the Mexico aspect that's been floated from day one, and now it's sort of picked up steam. John, what do you think what is the likelihood of Mexico?
I think it's extraordinarily unlikely. Why would the Sinaloa cartel, which is what controls the Sonora state right now, what benefit would they get from this? And Chris actually has a really in-depth analysis of this. But why would they do this? What would they hope to gain? They're already raking in money from drug sales and human trafficking. And do they really want to run the risk of becoming involved in potential chastising acts if it became known that they'd done this? But Chris has done a lot of, but no, I don't believe she's in Mexico.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I agree. And if she is, we'll never find her.
Yeah.
That no matter, you can have all the resources in the world. There are tens of thousands of Mexican citizens that have disappeared. And that's their own country. So, to them, it would be, and I'm not going to be, that's going to sound cold, but I'm not trying to be. I'm just trying to be realistic on the way they would look at this. They would go, well, yeah, but we've got 50 grandmas that have disappeared down here.
Right.
What prioritizes this grandma?
Right.
And so the fact that, there's a celebrity involved in this, okay, then realistically, if you were in California, we would just look at this like, okay, yeah, next. Why are we here? What do we got going here? What's going on? Okay. The fact that, does that play a role in the answer in an investigative analysis aspect? No, it doesn't. Okay. Because you have to look at the totality of the circumstances. If you think about why somebody why would somebody go into a home with an 84-year-old woman, all kitted up, blacked out, with a light in his mouth, using the brush to, hit the doorbell camera. You know, he's not going there and saying, okay, this is Savannah Guthrie's mom. Okay.
His
And
backpack is full. He's not expecting to take anything away with him.
yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and take her, and I'm going to hold it for $8 million. Oh, actually, I'm going to give it a payment plan. 4 million in Bitcoin by this day,
Right.
6 million by this day, 8 million by this day. Okay. And I said 18 days ago, that's noise. Okay. That was like 2 or 3 days into this thing. I said, folks, we're getting lost here. Let's really focus as to what's going on here. And so then and John and I and many others have thought, okay, well then we don't have to find the motive. We don't have to figure out the motive, because that's the how. And that's how investigators and how the public and how the FBI and how others get lost, because they start trying to figure out, well, how did this happen? That's what they're doing now. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The bigger question is, why did this happen? And why did this guy choose that time of night? Why did this guy choose that home? Why did this guy choose to go into that house somehow, which the sheriff hasn't revealed? Okay. Why did he choose the grass or the vegetation to cover the thing? Okay. The camera. Well, when you start asking the whys, then it makes sense, where you start asking, okay, well, why was that Range Rover impounded with evidence tags sealed on the doors? Why was Nancy's car impounded? Why did you impound the victim's car from her garage? If she was abducted out of that house, why are you impounding her car? Is there some connection to the abduction to the car?
Well, and Annie's car is still impounded.
That's the elephant in the living room.
I don't believe they've given that back.
In the room. Well, no, the sheriff won't talk about it.
Of course not.
Karen has 3 emails into the PIO with that one question. Did you impound Annie Tomaso's car? If so, is it still an impound? The first email response was, I'll ask the sheriff. And we have the emails. The second email response was, we're not, I'll ask the sheriff. And I think the third one was crickets. Okay. So now think about that. In the big picture, slow everything down. Why are they ignoring that one question? I'm not saying they're involved. But what I'm saying is, tell the public, if you have her car in evidence, then the public can they can talk about all the things they want. But what it does, it becomes a clarity of focus in relationship to justifying why you have impounded a family member's car in the disappearance of an 84-year-old mom.
Which he has called them victims, which they are. I'm not saying they're not. They have their mother is missing.
Right.
But they have, when you come out and publicly clear people of any suspicion and keep their car impounded, to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
No. Did they impound, have you ever heard the cops impound a kidnapped victim's family's vehicle?
No,
Hey, give me one case.
I can't.
Even Patty Hearst. They didn't go to Patty Hearst's dad's house and impound his cars when his daughter disappeared. They didn't impound Ed Smart's car when Elizabeth disappeared. Okay.
Right.
When you impound a car, that's like a huge deal in a case like this, because you impound it for something that you're looking for. And if you don't give it back to the family, that means you found it. And it
Keeping
has
it for evidence.
to
That means,
stand.
yes, that means that it has crossed the line from that you are holding on to a vehicle. And I saw a question explain impounding, and it's an impound, and it's IMPOUDING, is when we seize a vehicle and it is seized as evidence. And the police department will hold on to it until, well, if they've eliminated people from being suspects, then you would return the vehicle. But there are reasons why we would hold on to a vehicle. And one of them is that if at some point court proceedings occur and the vehicle was the source of some evidence, the defense attorney has the duty and has the right to be able to have his experts or her experts examine the vehicle. So the vehicle must be maintained under secure conditions so that it can be examined. And so I don't know why else, you're looking at the Fourth Amendment here, you're seizing stuff. Why would you hold on to it? And again, pure speculation on my part, but if you've said that these people are clear, I would reasonably expect that a vehicle would be returned.
Well, and I was going to say this as well, and Rosemary beat me to it, but Scott Peterson's car was impounded pretty fast and it was given back pretty quick too. Now I get that they're different cases, but same sort of thing. I mean, they impound his car with suspicion. They don't just take your car.
Well, they impounded the rental car in San Diego, if I remember right. Because remember, they arrested him in San Diego.
Yeah,
I remember Torrey Pines
with his dyed hair.
Right. Okay.
That fooled me.
Yeah. And we were down there at that time, John and I, we
had Chris, you remember this discussion where when that case broke, we looked at each other and said, he did it and she's dead. I mean, right. We knew that right away.
Yeah. I mean, and so, but, just kind of refreshing on that thought process, they also, remember, they took his boat and they kept the boat in evidence. They never released the boat, because they were looking for evidence that would cause them to say, oh, she was here. Okay. And they found that evidence, and that's why the boat was always impounded. And they impounded the vehicle that was used to tow the boat. Okay. That was never released.
Okay. So I guess we don't know though if the car has been returned or not.
Well, and that's the elephant in the room.
Because
I refuse to say.
And you would think that would be a big part of clearing them. Like he came out and said, hey, look, I know we impounded their car. Their property has been returned to them. Right. That would make sense.
Move off of that, right? As you move off of that in the investigative process and say, okay, well, hey, what are the labs? What's the lab report say, right? Because they get a lab report. And the case agent reads the lab report and says, okay, well, what do we got? Whatever they have, they have. Whatever they don't, they don't. And you go, okay, do we have any reason why we should hold the car? And if everybody, you run it by, your team boss and you say, hey, John, here's what we got, A, B, C, and D. Can you think of another reason why we should hold this? And he or she would make a decision and say, no, cut it loose. Okay. Because remember, the county is also picking up that tab.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And if you're screaming about cameras, to the board of supervisors, you're not going to hold that car for a whole heck of a long, a lot of time, because, you had to pay the tow bill, and unless they have I know they have an outdoor storage facility that you would see it moved out there at some point after the defense had an opportunity to come in and take a look at things if they ever hook somebody up. But that car is the elephant in the room. Once you remove that piece of the puzzle, then you go to the discrepancies in relationship to the timeline. You know, and I've, you know, we've hit that ad nauseum about, you know, the time frames. We know when the garage opened at 9:48 p.m. We know when the garage closed at 9:50 p.m. But guess what we don't know? Was it the mother's habit, okay, to go in and out through the garage, i.e. she pull her car in, go into the garage? Did she have a clicker? Did she have an app on her phone? You know, what was her pattern of life that she would consistently use? And then if you think about that night before, okay, where her son-in-law allegedly is driving her home, well, she's a passenger in that car. She's not driving. He is. So who opens the garage door at 9:48? The first time. We can ration, or we can logically feel that mom went in and used the clicker to close the garage door. Let's just say that's a hypothesis here. Okay. But who opened it? If it's the son-in-law that opened it and they have that data from his phone, okay, well, why wouldn't, for me, one of the questions I would have asked is, okay, when you guys got there at 11 something, whatever it's going to be in the morning, how did you get in? Oh, well, we ran around the back and we went in through the garage, you know, the two doors, the two blue doors in the back. You know what I would say? I'd say, well, the night before you opened the garage door, why didn't you just go in through the garage? You see how simple that is?
Well, there's another question about that Chris and I have talked about, which is, this is an 84-year-old woman with a walker. And she climbs out of a vehicle, walks across a dirt driveway, and enters the house in 2 minutes. Now, I have some personal experience with moving someone. My wife used a walker for many years, and even parking right in front of my house, we weren't going to get in 2 minutes. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe she walked up to the garage door and then it was open and she went inside. It just seems to me an extraordinarily foreshortened amount of time for a woman with back problems who doesn't move well in the dark to get in the house in that 2 minutes, which then to me, again, the why do we know for a fact that she was in fact there?
And yeah, to John's point, that's the other piece of this. And you tell me what you think, Josh, but what if he does have the app, or she, whoever, other family members have the app? You don't even need to be at the house.
Yeah, but what if they have the clicker in the car?
Well, then you have to use the clicker in the car. You could use the clicker. It's an option. But let's say you're playing cards at home and you have the app on your phone. I could open your garage right now, click, and be 5 miles away. And then I could go click and I could close that garage. All right. Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but those are the things you have to explore, and you have to take that off the table or put it into the equation. And one of the things is when you talk about, as minutia as this piece of the puzzle is, okay, and a lot of people aren't really talking about it. I mentioned it like, whatever, the first day, second day, it was like, well, wait a minute, this timeline's not lining up. One of the things that we saw, and I bounced it off of John, and I bounced it off the rest of the guys. It's like, hey, we're missing a data point. Why did the sheriff not give us this data point? And why isn't the sheriff telling us how they got into the house? He just keeps ignoring that piece of the puzzle. Okay. So let's do the math. It's all around that side of the family, the daughter. Think about it. How'd you get in the house? We're not talking about that. How'd the garage door get open in the morning, did they use the garage door open? We're not talking about that. Did they go through the front door? We're not talking about that. You know, well, what time did they get there? We think around 11-ish. Okay. What time did they call 911? 11:56. So what happened, Sheriff? Well, they were looking for their mom. Okay. And you start going, okay, the first people to see her alive after she got dropped off by the Uber driver was the family. The last person to see her alive when she got, brought back to the house was the family. But we don't know how the family got in. We don't know what time really the family got over there. And all these little anomalies that are, really interesting. What we do know is they went over and they photographed some things in the family's house. They impounded potentially the family's car. They've interviewed the family extensively. They're probably going to put them on polygraphs. They've taken DNA swabs, okay, and which, to be honest with you, in this kind of case, that would be irrelevant.
Well, I think that they've already done well. From what I've heard, that polygraphs have been administered. From what I Brian Enton, I believe, reported that. So, who knows? But so, like I said, once again, it's speculative, but it's a great question because you would think when he would go so far as to clear them, that he would kind of clear up some other things. I mean, he released the house very, very early on, very quick, and then. I would assume they still have her car, but I don't believe she drives. And John, I didn't know this, but she used a cane, not a walker. Would that make a difference?
I don't see how 2 minutes. And again, I'm going to go right back to we can't rely on witness statements. So yes, we have a witness statement that yes, she got out of the vehicle. We don't know that she did.
Correct.
We just don't know that she did. And this in no way I'm not casting aspersions. I'm simply saying that if one of the first things we learn is you can't necessarily rely on witness statements.
Sure.
And so that's particularly when we have the anomalous, we find blood at the front door, the back door is open. There is far more to this puzzle. And I would say one good thing is at least they have kept the information about the circumstances inside the house mostly quiet. That's important for what we call case-specific information. That information that only the investigators and the suspect would know about. So they're doing some decent case security with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because obviously everybody wants to know what exactly was found in the house. And, they're talking about mixed DNA in the house, Chris. I'm going to ask you about this. Can you explain what mixed DNA is and how difficult it is to separate those? I know I'm hearing people say that the lab in Florida is having problems separating, or I don't know that. I haven't seen an official report about it, but could you talk a little bit about separating mixed DNA and what we could be talking about by mixed DNA?
Well, mixed DNA can be a combination of both the suspect and the victim. There could be, a third piece of the puzzle. Maybe there's two perpetrators. So you could have three individuals, mixed DNA. And so you just have to isolate each one of those, markers on each person. And then once you get all three divided, or 2, whatever the number is going to be, which is not a hard process. They just need enough of it to separate it. Okay? And once you get those, then you can do a comparative analysis to a particular person. And but again, let's go back to the fundamentals again. I mean, if you think about how, like in the true crime community right now, everybody talks about, you know, the digital footprint, the mixed DNA or the DNA and everything like that. You know what? We haven't even answered how the guys got in the house. So I'm not going to focus on that stuff until that's how you solve crimes. Okay. Where investigators get lost is just what the public's doing. Because guess what they're doing? They're getting overloaded with information. The one thing I was really good, and I'm really good at, and I'm not saying, hey, look at me. I'm not saying that. But one thing I'm really good at, and John will tell you because he's worked with me, he's known me for 40 years. Okay. I am very specific about a lane. Once I go down that lane, I check it off to say, okay, I can now go down this lane. Okay. And when you do that and you take your time and you ask yourself, does this make sense? You're going to solve the crime. And if we can't even figure out, you know, the clicker concept, right, the next morning, if in fact that's a pattern of life for her, then all this other stuff is noise right now. Because when you get these other reports back, you know, from the feds, and they've got a digital footprint, you know, that say, okay, here are all the, you know, phones that pinged at 2 o'clock in the morning, blah, blah, blah. Okay, et cetera, right? You with me, Josh?
Yeah, I am. Sorry. My sister was trying to call me.
Not a problem.
I had to silence her.
I'm with you. So all of this stuff, okay, when all this stuff comes back and they put that on the investigator's desk, that's when you turn to your team and you say, okay, guys, gals, we have a digital footprint. All right. We need to go A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. You know, so-and-so, run. That's your lane. You make sense of this. Work with agent, you know, Chuck Smith over here. You guys work together. Get back to me when you get a run on this thing. Okay. Now, that's when you end up with the guys 60 miles out of Tucson who's delivering sandwiches or packages in the neighborhood. Okay. And you go, okay, he's not involved. All right. Well, you had to check that out. You had to check the box. Okay. But the case agent is at the house. The case agent is still here going, why an 84-year-old woman? Wait a minute. Why don't we have a data point? How did you miss the blood going into the house? Wait a minute. When you came around the house and you found the doors open, what were you thinking? What were you doing? What was going through your mind? You're looking for your mom. She's obviously out of place here. And what did you see when you go in that caused the sheriff's department to call in the homicide guys the first night? It wasn't because of Savannah. You can forget it. They saw something in that house, in that room, that said, this is the sheriff. Everybody hates me. Okay. And I'm a political animal. And the FBI had investigated our department in the past. Even the POA hates me, the sheriff's, association. The president of the sheriff's association is going to be out there, throw me under the bus. I get it. Get me homicide. Click. And the homicide guys show up. Unfortunately, from what John and I have heard, there's not a whole bunch of experience there, but that's okay. Okay. That's okay. Because you can tap on more experienced people and say, hey, can you help?
Sure. Right.
Yeah, we've got A, B, C, and D.
And there may even be senior deputies. I mean, when I made detective, I had already logged 2 years as a CSI, and I was a very effective street cop. So when I went in, I already had the fundamentals of homicide investigation. Now, I learned a great deal from the senior guys. So you don't necessarily have to assume that there's been an enormous loss of efficiency, because it's still, as Chris said, it's just homicide work one-on-one.
Yeah, and when you look at if you part these things in two trains, like I used that analogy
I've heard you say that before.
weeks ago. Okay. You've got the FBI train chasing the Bitcoins and the notes and hooking the guy up in LA. Okay. That's the FBI train. They're going down the road. But look at the other train. Who went over to Annie's house? Pima County Sheriff's Department. Who brought in the ICAC box? Pima County Sheriff's Department, the ICAC team. Who went over and photographed Annie's house? Pima County Sheriff's Department. Who was poking in the backyard in the septic system? Pima County Sheriff's Department.
Sure, right.
Who was next door a couple of days ago taking video off of a neighbor's house? Pima County Sheriff's Department. Do you see a pattern here? Well, everybody, and who contacted the authorities in Mexico? The FBI. Who are the sources that the investigation's not going well? The FBI. Okay. Do you see a pattern here? Okay. And this is reality of what happens behind the scenes on high profile cases.
So what you're saying really fast is, so you have the sheriff's department, seems like they're investigating a homicide, and then you have the FBI looking at alternative theories.
Well, here's the thought, right? Here's a question right back at you, Josh, just as a friend. Do you look for abducted women in the septic system?
No, of course not. Absolutely not.
You've answered your own question.
Right. Well, look, that was what I thought when I saw that. I mean, watching him poke and prod and they're pulling off those manholes. I doubt that it was just, let's go do this randomly. I mean, it would seem as though there had to be some sort of teeth to it. But it does feel like it is a homicide investigation. It does not feel like the ransoms were ever real, or even to me, it didn't feel like they're even associated with the perpetrators of the actual crime. I think that it's completely separate. And I don't know when I started to feel it. Probably after the first ransom deadline, went by, you're just kind of going, well, if whoever was writing those notes had proof of life because they wanted to get paid, they would have given proof of life.
Absolutely.
Bingo. Over.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, nobody's wanting to hang out for 21 days and wait to get caught. John, what do you think about that? I mean, is this, so this panel we're pretty much moved on from the ransom theory.
I never bought the ransom for a moment. I thought it was either opportunists or just evil-minded people who thought they'd have some fun by injecting this in, because as I said earlier, kidnapping for ransom is an extraordinarily rare crime in the United States. And I've heard people suggest, oh, well, what if it was like, I saw somebody say, what if it was terrorists? that did it because, well, she was on the Today Show. If it were a terrorist, or they would have hired skywriters to let everybody know they had done it. The whole purpose of something like that, if it was a political cause, would to advertise their group. I never for a moment thought that the ransom demand, and in fact, it became ludicrous when it was ransom, but you can do it on layaway.
It really is.
That's not.
It's foolish.
Which is what's led me to believe that the people that were doing this were either opportunists who don't understand what real kidnapping is about, or people just attempting to throw a wrench into the works.
Right. Right. And,
Yeah,
and go ahead, Chris, please.
No, I mean, it gets lost. Nancy's getting lost in Savannah. Now, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all. Okay. I feel, those of you who know me, the victims' families, the cases I have solved, they all get it. Okay. Here's a reality. In the Matthew Checky case, I've never spoken to Sharon, his mother, but one time.
Really?
Yes. And that was the night I interviewed her about the last conversation she had with her son. And why is that, do you think, for the way I operate? Is because I turned to a guy named Billy Robards and I said, Billy, you have the family. Keep me appraised as to what's going on with the family.
So compartmentalizing.
I did not want to emotionally get tied up in the grief, the pain, and the suffering of a mom who stood over her 9-year-old child who was slaughtered in a bathroom.
Right.
Okay? Because if I lost my objectivity, how can I be of any help to that mother? And so when I say what I'm saying about Savannah, I'm trying to say I would not get, I'm taking her and saying, yes, she's a victim. There's no question she's suffering. There's no question, she has the right to feel the way she's feeling. It's all normal. But as an investigator, you can't get caught up in that. Just look what happened in the Koberger case, where the chief is crying. The judge was crying. Okay. But who's in prison right now torturing the family? Brian Koberger. Okay. And it's and I guess that's the point I'm trying to make here. Okay. You have to step aside and say, okay, what do we have? Well, now everybody has a YouTube channel, right? We've got the CIA analyst, the targeter who took down bin Laden is like, well, this is what happened to Nancy Guthrie.
Yeah.
Okay, you killed bin Laden. I get it. Okay. And then what? Let's come down a little notch here to Tucson, Arizona, where there are 4,000 burglaries, 6,000 burglaries that take place in that little geographic region there, okay, where there are 400 unsolved crimes, okay? And really, we're going to weigh in as a targeter who killed bin Laden, okay? And all these other things, all these other, the Epstein files, the Clintons, like you really think Hillary Clinton woke up today and decided, you know what, I got a good idea. What's today? Who's on my target list? Well, Nancy Guthrie's mom, or Savannah Guthrie's mom. She's still available. Okay, well, let's make that happen. Let's get that happen. Put it in motion. Okay. And you see, that's noise. That's noise. And I don't listen to that. I listen to my instinct. John listens to his instinct. You listen to yours. And guess what? It's not rocket science. It's common sense. critical thinking, when you slow down and you see, you know, the idea of, I can't tell you how many suspects I had, and John, you know, we've had in our time, where they get so elaborate. It's just like, it's all over the wall, and, you know, this and that guy did this and that guy did that. And you just sit there and you say, okay, you know, we're going to run that down. We're going to check that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
You chase down everything. And so one of your commenters just said something about, yes, we did it before there was technology. The first time we had access to computerized fingerprint analysis was 1986. DNA came around a year after that, and DNA turnaround was 6-7 months. We didn't have any of this technical stuff yet. We relied on, well, analysis of the crime scene. And I can't tell you the number of times working a case where I would leave, you know, I'd have cops call me and say, some guy may know. Or I would go out and in the middle of the night to go talk to some meth freak downtown just to get the information. And you talk to people, and you follow where the evidence leads. The other thing you do is, and this is the one thing that television has influenced this, whenever I went to a murder scene, the last thing I did was to start doing stuff. You need to sit in that scene and absorb it and let the scene speak to you. I don't know if they do that anymore. It's like, let's rush in and we got to do this and we got to do that. Just sitting, I mean, I came up with evidence for a murder case by noticing a blank spot in dust on a mantle, which told me symmetry had been disturbed, which came in to be an important fact later on. And I don't know that this form of investigating, this deductive style of investigating, I don't know how much is being done anymore.
Yeah.
And that's old school, and that's what it takes. Think about what's solving crimes today. Is it old gumshoe in terms of talking to people, or is it technology and the crimes that are going cold? By the way, we're with the Cold Case Foundation. We have job security, because when the DNA doesn't come back, okay, or when something goes cold, like they didn't get the, you know, the digital footprint, you'll be surprised how many investigators go, I don't know what to do. You know what? Yeah, we're going to submit our case to the Cold Case Foundation. And guess what? There are 167 old dudes, guys, gals, and whoever. And by the way, you're going to see Ann Burgess on the show tomorrow night. All these people that have decades of experience before technology. When we would get a lab report, right, John, it would say, hey, good news. What's that? Your suspect has B positive blood,
Yeah,
or O negative. What?
exactly.
Awesome. I got an O negative. Yeah, you got a hit, man. O negative. Your suspect is O negative. All right. I need to just find some dude with O negative. Okay.
I mentioned something else, Chris, and I
was
saw it
our
on one of the
technology.
comments scrolling by, which was, and now I'm about to go into old guy sitting on my porch saying, get off my lawn. Old guy rant. We would work, and it was, I think OC Girl said they only want to work 8 hours and go home. I
Yeah.
can't speak to what Pima County Sheriffs did. I can tell you that when we got a murder, it was not uncommon to work 24, 36, 48 hours straight. You worked the cases because you had been entrusted with the solemn duty of attempting to find out who took a human life. And we took it very seriously. And so we would start working, and you might catch a nap at your desk for 90 minutes, and then you'd jump right back in it, because it's going to be solved in the first 48 hours. I know that that's a trite a trite expression, and I guess a series, the name of a TV series, but it happens to be true. That's how you're going to solve it, and you work it just as hard as you can. And even as late as when Chris and I left our department, there were detectives that were, if they had to work more than 8 hours, were complaining and, come on, my work shift is over. When you're working homicide, your work shift isn't over. You just keep working it.
Right.
You know, and just, I want to like this comment. Watch the interview 5 months ago, Monica Lewinsky. Okay. Savannah, I'm not getting tunnel vision. This was 100% staged for months. You know how you know it wasn't 100% staged for months? Because you know about it. End of story. If anything was under the covers, or, you know, whatever, connected to whoever, what the cartels or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Guess what? None of this would be in the public arena at all. Those guys and, you know, the cartels, those people are, they're at a different level when it comes to torture, when it comes to brutality, when it comes to executions. Okay. They don't steal 84-year-old women, and they certainly don't get hired by Hillary Clinton and the Epstein crowd. Okay. Because one, she wouldn't have made it out of the house. They would have just walked in and executed her in bed.
Yeah.
End of story.
No muss, no fuss.
And there would have been no question about, hey, we need a payment plan for ransom. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and that's reality. That's reality. You know, back, I don't know if you remember when the Vietnam War ended and when they started bringing, they were called, you know, the boat people, those who had escaped the communist, you know, party at that time. They all came to Orange County, California, but they were housed at Camp Pendleton. Okay. There were like 30,000 people that escaped Vietnam. Okay. And within that group were some folks from Laos. Okay. You know what Orange County started to see in the early 80s in some of their brutality and some of their crimes? Literally, people were getting decapitated and their heads were being put on outside of 7-Eleven stores. You know, the car, those, what do you call the barrier?
Yeah, parking barriers.
Yeah. Westminster had a caper where they had 3 heads on car barriers into a 7-Eleven. Okay. Now those are people from a war-torn country. Okay. Now, if you overlay that into the cartels, okay, in Mexico, and John and I worked the border, where our city was 32 miles from the border, and I mentioned it the other night, what they call an Article 4, which is a Mexican, part of their penal code system down there. You need an Article 4 to prosecute somebody down there.
Right.
Okay. But think about this. These cartel members are only interested in moving human trafficking, drugs, fentanyl, all the other stuff. Okay. They're not
and getting paid for the people that they kidnap.
Well, they don't, but they're kidnapping family members of people that haven't paid them for transporting them across the border.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
They're going back into Mexico and they're holding the family hostage to pay for this guy's transport. That's what they're doing. Okay. They're not kidnapping Americans and running them across the border.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I don't know if you remember a baseball player by the name of Yasiel Puig. He played for the Dodgers, and there was a report that he was actually smuggled over by the cartel to get to America to play baseball, and he owed the cartel I think it was somewhere around $20 million. And his family was being threatened or something like that. To prove your point, it turned out there was actually teeth to this, because he ended up on a raft from Cuba to America to play baseball. I don't know if you guys ever remember that story, but it was kind of a big deal at the time. And so, I mean, I get what you're saying. It's so the cartel thing.
Too many moving parts.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, that would be why would you, what possible financial return, and do you really run the risk of having this become a media issue, and then potentially having somebody decide that they're going to cross the border to clean your operation up? I just don't see any upside for them, considering that they've got all of these other forms of money making.
Do you think they want this attention?
No, absolutely not.
Exactly.
They're very low key, you know, they're high violence, but they're low key. And by the way, just for the record, we had one of the most violent gangs in Southern California. It's called Vario Pasole Loco, VPLS. We had shot callers, Richard Jaime, and others in our city from the MA, okay, who basically is the cartel. Okay, I did a caper where they shot a guy on his mother's porch in the back of the head, and they dropped him on his mother's porch while he was on his knees. Boom. I had to go up to Pelican Bay and interview a guy. His name is Solano Beltran in Pelican Bay in Northern California. That's up near you, Josh, a little bit further up.
Where my dad is.
Okay. So I had to go up there. Me and Danny Aarons went up there, and we interviewed a guy named Solano. And as he was sitting there, we walked in, and he gives me one of these, and I'm like, "Hey, how are you?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "You know, I'm so-and-so such and such. My partner is so-and-so such and such." I said, "Do you have any idea why we're here?" And he goes, "I got an idea. You want to talk about it?" He goes, "No, you guys wasted your time." Thanks, thank you very much. We checked the box. We did that. Okay. So this is not a situation where these guys are going to snag an 84-year-old woman because of, you know, Savannah Guthrie. It ain't going to happen. Look at all the attention this has brought. Just the fact that we're talking about cartels, they hate this.
Yeah. This is.
Well, a lot of things get blamed on cartels and trafficking and things like that, especially when you're close-ish to the border.
Yeah.
And they are. But you guys have done border work and worked with the federales and things like that. And you know, a report came out just the other day that the FBI had been in contact with the federales, but that nothing formal was requested. That, you know, it was just you know, hey, we're just kind of checking in, but that they're not, the Mexican authorities are not investigating this.
No.
And
why would they?
They said they would if they were asked, but they have not been asked.
Well, that tells you everything you need to know about what the actual law enforcement authorities in the United States consider about that theory.
You know what they did? One of the things they did, they took her flyer, they gave it to a field agent in the FBI, and they said, "Hey, go down to the checkpoint and hand the flyer to our counterparts down there."
Yeah.
Right? And they have it in the booth as you're driving in.
Well, you know, so I think the border, I think it's like 60 miles. It's about an hour from Tucson. And so you can get there relatively fast. And, you know, Brian Ensign went down there. He walked right in through the gate, and all. And he was asking, I don't know if you guys saw this, but he was asking, have you guys heard of the Nancy Guthrie? Nobody.
There you
Not
go.
one.
It isn't news there.
I rest my case.
Because like Chris said earlier, and John, you have alluded to this too. They have their own missing people that they go missing every day there. It's constant.
Look at the murder rates. Just look up murder rates in Juarez. Okay.
They have numbers that high.
Well, they came to us in the Cold Case Foundation, and Greg said this. He goes, "You guys want to go to Juarez?" And I'm like, "No." Because they have so many dead bodies down there that they reached out and said, hey, can you help us? And, we said, no, it's too dangerous.
Sure.
We used to get bulletins. Remember, John, if you're law enforcement, do not go to Tijuana. Do not go to Baja. Do not go to Mexico.
Don't go to Ensenada. Don't go there.
Well, and the thing is, though, and I understand why they went there and they asked because of proximity. The proximity.
I have to check the box. Yeah.
They have to check the box, and I understand why they're talking to asking people, "Have you heard of it?" Because it's very close. But once you cross that border, it's literally a whole new world. It doesn't matter if it's a mile from the border, 20 miles from the border. You could go to El Salvador. It's the same thing. It doesn't. They do not keep up with this stuff because that is just a regular, unfortunately, a regular day in Mexico. It happens constantly.
So here you have the internet, Josh, for your audience. Something fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so type in Catholic Cardinal executed airport Tijuana. I think his name was Ocampo. Cardinal Ocampo.
Cardinal
Cardinal.
Juan Jesus Sidis. Was that the one in 93?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, pull that up for a second. There's a reason I'm.
Yeah.
So while he's doing that, essentially the Sinaloa cartel, okay, our boy El Chapo back in the day, okay, they come to California, okay, and they recruit gang members out of San Diego and 2 guys out of our city. So there are 5 guys. It was, I think it was 16th Street down San Diego. Does that say? I can't see it, but anyway.
You can't see what on here?
Well, no, yeah, that's fine. So the Cardinal, they want to, the Sinaloa cartel wants to execute a guy that just happens to be in the same type of rental car as the Cardinal rents. Okay. And they get a bunch of cowboys, and 2 of them came from our city, and I think like 3 or 4 came from 16th Street in San Diego. And they all get together. They go down to TJ at the airport, and they're waiting for this dude to show up. Anyway, they open up, and they execute this Cardinal. By accident. Okay.
Right.
This is the equivalent to taking an 84-year-old woman out of the house, okay, in the middle of the night because, you're a cartel. That puts so much heat on the cartels, okay, that they hunted down El Chapo. That was the political switch that put pressure on the authorities.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, why would the cartels want this heat for something like this? I get exactly what you're saying. So So Cartel, you're not buying that. You're not buying the ransom that would be associated with Cartel or Mexico. Or now, does that mean that the perpetrator didn't flee to Mexico? No, it doesn't mean that. I mean, look, that would make as much sense as anything in the world. I mean, that's probably where I would go if I were him, or them, or whoever. But to take somebody for ransom to Mexico, or to transport a dead body, excuse the graphic nature of it, to Mexico, is a risk that career criminals, career cartelmen, things like that, they're not going to take that risk. So,
and roll it up here for a minute, right? Right. No, the other way.
Yeah, here.
Look, they whack 6 people in this hit.
Right.
That's how the cartels operate. Okay. They whack, see, San Diego based members from Logan Heights. There you go. That's what I was talking about.
Right.
Okay. So I was in Homicide when this whole thing went down. Okay. And I guess what I'm saying here is this brought so much pressure to the Sinaloa cartel and all the other people involved. They're not as stupid as people think they are. They're very complicated. And that's why it takes, quote, the FBI to catch them and the DEA. Okay. They're just not a bunch of cowboys that show up at, from Sinaloa, that show up at 2:00 in the morning, and decide to kidnap a 84-year-old woman. It's too high risk for them, like this Cardinal problem was too high risk for them.
Okay, so another theory that has been floated is an obsessed fan. Have you guys heard this? Have you heard of the theory that is this somebody that was obsessed with Savannah, with her fame? Or it almost that theory almost reminds me of the movie Misery. You remember when the guy crashes his car off the side of the road and it gets personally, I don't think it holds any water, but I mean, is that even a possibility to you guys, in your opinion?
I'll let John start that one.
Look, if you're asking me, is there some element of the human race that is capable of that? Yeah, certainly it is a possibility. However, to do the abduction, if we follow this theory, if we accept this premise that a crazed fan decided to abduct Savannah's mother, what's the end game? Don't you say, hey, Savannah, I've got your mom, and I want an autograph ticket and I want to go to the Today Show, or whatever it is this person wants. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, the person fronting this theory could say, well, it doesn't make sense because this person's crazy. And I can understand that, but generally people who are attempting to get at celebrities talk about Pinkley, who shot Reagan, or Mark Chapman, who killed John Lennon. They've done it because they want to get some ancillary fame. They want to get some fame out. They want to be known. I've got your attention now. Well, you can't do that if you keep it a secret. So I just don't see this as being a particularly likely scenario. But in these instances, I will never say that there's a 100% chance that it's wrong. We live in a strange world, and so, but I would largely dismiss that theory.
Gotcha. Same, Chris?
I agree with John. I mean, it's, we can't even get a straight answer how the family got in the house. I'm going to keep going back, because I mean, if it's a strange fan, if it's a crazy fan, okay, you're going to spend 40 minutes in the house. Well, guess what? You drove there. If you took her. So what kind of car were you, where's the car? What were you driving? Where'd you park it? Why'd you dress up the way you did? Why'd you have the light in your mouth?
That's the cosplay outfit, the mask and everything.
Cosplay, exactly.
Well, and that's the thing too, is, I've heard that theory sort of floated, but the thing is, and maybe I'm wrong, and this isn't to look, Savannah is a wildly popular person. I mean, she's a public figure, but she's not like that famous.
Exactly.
I mean, she's famous, but not, it's not like she's Taylor Swift. I'm just, forgive my.
Yeah, exactly. And your point is really, really highlights what I've been trying to say. Yes, she is famous, but she's not Taylor Swift famous. She's not top movie star famous. She's not top athlete famous.
Well, it was like when Lady Gaga's dogs got kidnapped for money. I don't know if you guys remember that. I mean,
yes.
Lady Gaga's got a lot of money. She's very high profile and things like that. So, I'm not.
Did they coach him?
I think so. I can't remember, and I'm not equating that to the same thing. I'm just saying, yeah, and which they were a couple of Frenchies, and I don't even want to talk about Frenchies because, I got my own problems with my own. But, yeah, John Lennon, things like that. It just doesn't really make sense. And I know I saw somebody in the comments said, "Crazed fan, really?" We're speculating. We're having a discussion.
What if this is a murder for hire?
Well, I was going to get there as well. But you would need motive.
What's the motive? Why do you need motive?
I mean, I guess you don't need motive, but for it to make sense, you would think you would need some motive.
Well, you wouldn't know that until you talk to the suspect.
That's true too.
Yeah, and that
again,
you notice we're all figuring, or folks are only focusing on how. And John and I, we're not going to leave why yet. I can't leave why. I mean,
so how doesn't count until we understand why.
Yeah. And that's fundamentals 101 in investigative work. You cannot, you can't, because I could tell you, that 4 alien ships come down and, they dropped 2 people off on the lawn. And once they got her in, they ported her back, and now she's in Area 51. Okay. Well, that's how they did it. Okay. But nobody's going to be able to answer, well, why are the aliens interested in her, i.e. the space people? Okay. It's not because, why would they just choose her mom to get money out of Savannah? And to, what about the brother? Why aren't we talking about the brother? He's just as important as the sister, meaning the F-16 pilot out of Vermont. Why isn't he the one that they took the mother for? Because he's not as high profile, right? You see, that's logic that kind of just slides in there, right?
Right.
Well, what about the other sister? Why, maybe it's her. The reason they took her was for the other sister, Annie. Why not? Right?
So a murder for hire, there could be a million different reasons, not literally a million, but there could be dozens of reasons why. There could be most crimes of this kind, revenge or whatever you want to call it, would have some sort of financial motive, or been slighted financially or turned down. And I don't want to speculate too much on finances, but having 3 mortgages isn't really a big deal if you have 3 homes. But 3 mortgages on 1 home seems as though somebody's refinancing to help somebody else when you've owned a home for 30 or 40 years.
So let's play this out. This is how it works. You chase that lead down, and you came back to the lead investigators, and you just said what you said. You know, the first question I'm going to ask you,
What's that?
why is that? What did you find out?
Have you dug into her financials? That's where you would need a forensic accountant, which is the thing that nobody's talking about. But I'm certain there's a forensic accountant going through her finances.
Yeah, you see, that's how it works. That's how these investigations work. You've got a lead homicide guy that was there from the very first night. And if you have the feds involved, he's probably working alongside an experienced FBI guy. Okay. They're working in conjunction with each other. Okay. And they're working very well behind the scenes together while the politicians and all the other people trying to get to the podium, okay, are fighting and arguing about, the sheriff should go, the FBI should take over and all this other stuff. But these two guys are listening to guys like you coming back and saying, okay, hey, we got this lead. Here it is from a digital footprint or whatever evidence they have, which we don't know about. And here it is. And then you make a decision. And that decision usually, starts off with, okay, well, why are we seeing a connection here? Explain that to me. Help me understand that piece of the puzzle. And then what we do is we circle up and everybody gets in this, boo ha ha. We go into a conference room, right, John? I mean, we used to have this big conference room and everybody sits around. The case agent is in charge. Okay. The guy who's going to sit on that stand with his hand up in the air is in charge. Now, if he's making a dumb decision or we think it's, not close or whatever, trust me, the team will tell him. Okay. They'll go, no, wait, we don't want to go down that lane right now. We're going to be going down all these rabbit holes, chasing Epstein, chasing all this other stuff. Okay. And, that's when you can really turn it to the FBI and say, you guys go do your thing. Okay. And you guys run. Okay. And you look at your teammate there from the feds and you go, can you make that happen? Yeah. Okay, good. Make that happen.
Right.
So while all that noise is going on over here, right, all of a sudden you see the feds in the very first press conference, we hooked up a guy in LA. Well, how did they do that overnight? Almost. Well, trust me, they have the capability to make that happen quickly. Okay.
Well, can I ask you a question about the guy in LA? Because this is something I don't understand. I understand him contacting the sister, Annie.
Correct.
I don't understand how or why he would contact the son-in-law.
Bingo.
I get Annie's connection to her mother, but I would never think to contact the brother or the son-in-law, not the brother-in-law, the son-in-law, Tommaso, in regards to anything having to do with the case.
Right. And so if you look at this video right here, I'm going to dovetail into your thought process.
Yeah, please.
I'm going to start calling this guy Plant Life. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, Johnny?
Yeah.
Because
if I wanted to disable a camera, I would pluck some pieces from a small shrub and do it. Right. I wouldn't think to bring tape and cover the lens.
Yeah. So this guy is obviously very low on the intelligence poll. Okay. This is not a CIA operative. Okay. That's gone through all the training and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right.
This guy doesn't fit in the Epstein
playing in the background.
Okay, this guy doesn't fit in the Epstein model. To me anyway. Okay. I mean, for some he may, God bless you. Okay. However, this guy's not the sharpest tool in the shed. Okay. So when we think about that, what's the most logical question is, why is this guy in the equation? What help me understand this, right? From an investigative analysis aspect, we're gonna ask ourselves, obviously something's going on here with this guy. Okay, why is this guy in the equation here? Okay,
Is he a distraction? Is he a stooge? Has he simply been sent there to drain as a red herring?
Is he a fentanyl, is a fentanyl addict, and you say, hey, I'll kick you, $3,000, here's the deal, yada, yada, when all the money comes in. We don't know. Okay. But does anybody in the chat believe that this guy could create a ransom note and ask for $4 to $8 million in Bitcoin?
Yeah. This is Wile E. Coyote from the Roadrunner. Wile E. Coyote, super genius.
So now
he's the main. Are you saying that he's not the main player? That this guy is not the main player?
No, we haven't thought that from day one.
He's just there maybe to help.
Well, there's more than one. And we said that the first night with the secondary picture with the guy without the gun in front of himself. Okay. Who's to say that these guys didn't get her and then hand her off to somebody else? And that's where the Range Rover comes in. You ever thought that the Range Rover's only to move her, transport her, but there's another car that potentially could be involved in getting her away from this property?
Because there are three, I guess they're still considered suspects according to the sheriff, because they raided the home, and then also the Carlos guy before that, one that was 40 miles away or something. And I think people think that because they were released that they're no longer suspects, and that couldn't be further from the truth. That I believe that they have collected evidence and DNA, and I think they're hoping that they can get a match on some DNA that they're waiting for. Do you think that's sort of the play? Like we're collecting this stuff. We had a federal warrant. They had a federal warrant signed by a federal judge to kick these people's door in if that's what they did or wanted to do.
Yeah, but that could just be as much as a digital footprint. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, but what I'm saying is, it could be a digital footprint, but isn't that a pretty high standard to get a federal warrant?
Not with exigent circumstances in an 84-year-old missing woman.
Gotcha.
I mean, you can literally just get on the phone and say, Your Honor, blah, 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 this is what I got going, and here's my affidavit, and you read it. And the judge says, okay, sign my name. Go.
See, people are assuming because we're seeing this gentleman that this is the time that the abduction begins. The crime may already have been completed. She may have already been, this clown may have just been sent here to just screw with the timeline.
Sure. Right. Or disrupt the scene even more, or
that's certainly possible. I mean, some thought went into this. This almost at times, it looks like people sat back and they thought, well, we're going to come up with this plan. And the only thing that mitigates against it is he's got a backpack full of stuff, a tarp. But again, that may have been part of a plan to make it appear that he was there to. But does this guy look like he's moving with any particular urgency?
No.
Like, I'm on a mission to go abduct a woman?
No.
He's wandering around like the old people, and I say that acutely where I'm an old person, who wander around the Costco and gape at stuff. He doesn't know what he's doing.
And to build off of what John's saying, what's the most important thing to this guy? Let's all think about this for a moment. In the chat, what is the most important thing to this guy?
To block the camera?
That's what he's doing. But what do you think? That's his behavior. Remember, thoughts, feelings, and emotions create behavior. Okay, those three things. So what's the most important thing to this guy right now?
To conceal his identity?
Bingo. Why is he worried about concealing his identity? That's the big question. Is he known to the people in the house? Could he be recognized if this video ever surfaced? Everything he's doing right here, coming up onto the porch, him bowing down, him trying to stay away from the camera, him trying to figure out, okay, you know what, maybe I didn't anticipate this piece of the puzzle. Okay.
So that's why he's walking. So that, because I was kind of going, wow, he's got really poor posture. But
right. Well, everybody's focusing on those pieces of the puzzle, which that's important. But what's important to him? Right.
All that's important to him, it seems as though he doesn't want to be recognized. He doesn't want to be identified.
Right.
Does it look like he wants to get in the house?
He doesn't look too eager to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very comfortable. He's very calm. He's very, oh crap, there's a camera. Hang on for a second. Maybe I didn't anticipate that. We don't know, the things that he would be thinking. Right. But what from an investigative side, I would take this video, and when they get this guy and kind of lead him into this idea that says, let me play the video for you. Click. And then we watch it together. And then you sit back and say, what were you thinking? What was important to you?
Mm.
Oh man, I saw the camera and I was like, oh crap. Okay. Why? Well, I knew Miss Guthrie. Really? How come? I was the roofer, the gardener, the pool man, the friend of a friend of a friend who knows as a friend, and he told me, blah, blah, blah. And I would get, yada, yada. Say, okay, so you're just kind of like, you're like the nephew of, so-and-so. Okay. Now, what if it turns out that this guy who was successful with another person potentially, they get her out of the house and then they meet up somewhere and everybody goes, oh, we don't need these anymore. Throw them, and they hand her off. And now she's in the back of another car and they're off to the races. Because remember, the search patterns that are going on here is you've got the cops focusing completely on the house. Okay. And you've got the FBI focusing outside of the house in the geographic region from a geographic profile concept. Okay. They're looking into neighborhoods. They're looking into 60 miles down the pipeline here into, Pio Pico. Okay. They're looking at the sniffers and all that stuff. Okay. But Pima County Sheriff's Department is going, you know what? Let's search in the backyard. There's another search tomorrow. You're aware of that. Back over at Nancy's house.
No, I'm not aware of that. No.
There's going to be another search tomorrow, I heard.
By the sheriff's department?
Yeah. And that's why even though they're saying it's to keep they put the barriers and they created a one-way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I saw.
They're basically trying to keep cars out of there because they may go back. Okay. And so somebody's got to be thinking, okay, we're getting information that keeps pulling us back this way as well. So they got cross information, right? The feds are getting information pulling them this way, and these guys are getting information pulling them this way. And John and I have worked, we worked it was the highest profile child kidnapping cases in the country. December 16th, 1989. I keep repeating this, but it's important to understand we learned a lot of lessons back in 1989 about high profile stuff. Okay. And Letitia was, profiled 3 times on America's Most Wanted. My job was to go this way with the FBI, cross country. We went to Buckman Springs. We did all kinds of searches, wherever she was seen. Okay. But over here, her name was Sheila Hancock and an FBI agent by the name of Mike Popinjak. They were working the neighborhood.
Okay.
A suspect that was a couple of doors down, as you know, because you did a lot of research on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, John was a supervisor at that time. Okay. And so we all knew what the public's perception was. The public's perception was, oh man, they're chasing her across the United States. When in reality, they never left the neighborhood. That could be happening right now as we sit here on this podcast. Okay. And our department, we got all kinds of, yahoos from, the powers to be or whatever. And I think they have a plaque up in, let me see if I can find it for you. Keep moving. But John, what are your thoughts on what I just said? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, you've just identified it as that people really don't understand what goes on behind the scenes, and just the areas, the number of people that you will bring in to work a case. I agree with Chris also that there has to be a reason why they're going back to do yet another search there. The only thing I'd add to it also is I saw one of your viewers said that it's a big desert. I'd also point out that there are 2 reasonably decent sized reservoirs. One of them south of Tucson in the Rio Rico area, it's the Green Valley Lake and Reservoir. And then there's another one to the northwest, and I want to say it's the Picacho Reservoir. You have the logistics of moving your victims 50 miles, and that's always risky because if you're driving along with a corpse in the vehicle and you get pulled over, how do you explain that to the officer? What do you say? I found it and I was bringing it to the police station. So I'm thinking that you probably, they either had a plan in place with multiple vehicles or they didn't travel that far. So that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm texting something over to you.
Okay.
At the end of the day, with these high profile things, okay, I just texted it to you.
Got it.
Yep, the questioner, has the sheriff even thought about searching those reservoirs? I hope somebody has. I don't know. And really, if the sheriff has no experience with homicide, and this may be a grim fact for your viewers, most people who get elected to be sheriffs or get to be police chiefs, they generally don't have the same amount of experience as the people who are working the murder cases. And that's as charitable as I can be tonight. I think that the biblical verse, "and little child shall lead them," would tell you what I think about police administrators.
Let me put this up, Chris. Hold on.
So at the end of the day, when the dust is cleared and everybody, like John's talking about, has run to the podium and high-fived each other, and remember in Christmas Vacation where Chevy Chase is there in the hallway when all the bosses are coming down the hallway, and he goes, put it over there, greaseball, with all the other ones, the president. Say, hey, sir, we got your card. And the CEO looks at the other guy and he goes, corporate. He says, okay, greaseball. I need that, formula by tomorrow morning for a trade show or whatever he says. Okay. Well, this is what it comes down to. This plaque right here. After it's all over, this is in the hallway in our investigations division. Okay. I have another one with me standing next to it. Took a picture of it. But it's from the FBI. It's saying, you guys were great. Man, how awesome is this? Okay. Everybody's saying kumbaya. Here's a plaque. Okay. Well, you see that, for me, that doesn't represent Leticia Hernandez. Okay. That for me, that's just like, all the hoo-has patted each other on the back and said, look at me.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And that's what will happen in this case too, when it's all over. Okay. Over the next probably 2 or 3 weeks, if they don't hook somebody up, then the feds they're going to pull back. Okay. Because they're going to say, well, we've invested a lot of, resources, a lot of information, et cetera, et cetera.
Taking the case as far as we can.
Yeah. Can you zoom in on that, Josh? Is there a way to zoom in on what the plaque reads?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Wow.
There you go. With the appreciation for outstanding dedication and professionalism, the exhibit during the joint operative investigation with the Federal Bureau of Investigation into the kidnapping of Leticia Hernandez. Okay. This was one of the highest profile kidnapping cases in the United States at that time. She was profiled 3 times on America's Most Wanted. They jumped all over this thing.
Mm.
There was no way they weren't going to pass out a plaque. Okay. This is what local law enforcement sometimes, why if you cannot swallow your pride and realize it's about the last name there, Leticia Hernandez, and not about all the other names above it, okay, you get lost in all these other dynamics. People get lost. And I learned a long time ago, back then, how to focus. And I ingrained it into me. And I watched some of the best guys, some of my mentors like Danny, like John, like others, okay? Ed Selby, Jake, Jim Wood. I mean, all of these guys, Bobby George, Rich Derone. I mean, the list can go on. I can just keep going. These guys were really good investigators. And you learn from the best. And every agency has good investigators and guys that are, quite frankly, they should be still back in patrol doing what they do. Okay. But when
1989, I believe, was the year that Leticia Hernandez was abducted.
December 16th, 1989. Correct.
I actually know that case very well.
Yes. Yeah. And I was very impressed that you did that.
It was a frustrating case to look at and research and go, wow. I saw all the hard work that was put into that case from everybody. And just a very terrible. I still have hope for that case.
I do too.
I really do. I really have hope for that case. John, did you work that case too?
No, basically, well, I was on periphery originally, but see, when all the resources were devoted to this immense operation, I was the sergeant who handled everything else. I ended up handling child protection, the child abuse unit, the property crime unit. So I,
Yeah.
because those cases don't stop. You can't drop everything. So, and as there continued to be violent crime, I got called out as a sergeant to do the investigations with my burglary detectives because the crimes of violence guys were tied up on you need to have somebody left behind to be handling all the other stuff, and that's what I did.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, but yeah, that was just a massive case. Let me get some of these questions out, and then we'll let you guys get out of here. And I know you got a good show lined up for tomorrow, and we'll all be. Did you send me something?
I just sent you the one, but it's no big deal.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Oh yeah, I remember that. Here, I'll put this. All right, let me let's see here. So there are heaps of people who sell gems around Nancy and a gem show around that time. Could the perps have gotten the wrong address?
Yeah, that's a possibility. Sure.
It's certainly a possibility, but let's follow up on that briefly. Then what you need to do is find out, are there any gem dealers there? Where do they live? And why would they have confused it? Did she attend a gem show? It's certainly a possibility, but you would need to do a large amount of work to determine if it's even a workable lead.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Let's see. Been watching you break this down, Chris, and as always, walk away with more knowledge than I had before. I'm here for it, a case study in real time. I feel the same way, and this isn't the first case that I've discussed with Chris, nor John for that matter, and they both are a wealth of information and knowledge, and I'm very, I don't pretend to be on their level in any stretch of the imagination with investigative work. I just like to ask questions, and I have a inquiring mind. I've never worked a homicide case in my life, but unfortunately, I've spent a great deal of time in courts. I know the system very well. I know crime and punishment pretty well. Matter of fact, I'll be up in March 28th. I'll be up in Pelican Bay for a parole hearing, so that'll be a blast. You got to go buy some white tennis shoes and no colors when you go in that place.
Oh yeah,
it's disturbing.
No jeans either.
No, it's basically it's slacks and a button up like plaid,
right.
Off color.
They don't take you past the area where you have to sign the no hostage policy, do they?
No, thank God. No, we get to actually go into we don't have to go. No, we don't have to go that far in. Thank God. But you will see some inmates on the way in. Usually those are the ones that are a little better behaved, but
you get your cat calls.
Yeah, well, yeah, sometimes I just wink and keep going. All right, so let's see. There was blood on the walkway. I would like
thank you for that compliment from Mikey. Appreciate it. I learned too from you guys every single day. Seriously.
Mikey tunes in all the time to the lab. I know he watches your show. He's a very very respectful, contributes to the conversation very well, and I appreciate that when people do that. There was blood on the walkway. I would like to know how much of it, if any blood, was in the house. I would think there should have been at least a trail of blood in the house. So they say that they're testing DNA from inside the house. I know people are talking about that. That the sheriff said there's some sort of snag with, I haven't got into that, but I'm sure you guys will discuss that tomorrow because it's just coming out tonight. That the sheriff did an interview, I think, on CBS, and so we will.
And what's the interview? What are they saying? What's he saying?
He's saying that they're having some sort of snafu with the DNA, but I don't know the details of it yet. But
we don't know if there's blood in the house. We don't know that the DNA originates from blood because it's one of the things that, fortunately, they have kept secret.
Yeah, they've only said there's biological fluid in the house.
Yeah, but there was blood on the porch.
Oh yeah.
They already identified that as Nancy's.
But I didn't see, when I was watching that video, and I've seen that video a million times by now. Isn't that the area where the blood was?
What do you mean?
Where it shows on the front porch,
Right.
where Nancy's blood, the droplets of blood were.
Right.
You can't see them there in that video, correct? I mean, I didn't.
Oh, you mean with the suspect on the porch with,
right.
With the grass man?
Yes.
Yeah, grass man.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. I couldn't see it at all. But
It could
doesn't mean, it could have been a lighting
there.
problem, but you would think that you would have seen some, transfer from footprints up and down that pathway when he turned around to go back and get the stuff and then come back up to the door. He would have stepped in something, especially that, if it's pitch black where he's having to use a light to look down to even see things.
Right. Let's see. Did they check Annie's camera to see how long Thomas, nice way to say it, was gone when dropping Nancy at home? I don't know if they checked her camera or not, but I would be shocked if they didn't keep track of how long he was gone. I mean, that would be a big investigative piece to the public. And
you know what this feels like? As John always used the analogies, door number 1, 2, or 3. This feels like everybody's waiting for door number 3 to open.
I know it really does.
Right?
I was going to ask you guys though, have you ever said that somebody wasn't a suspect when in fact they were?
Well, no. And I got in trouble with 2 major cases. Actually, I didn't get in trouble. I refused to go along with both of these cases. One of them was Stephanie Crow. I was the only guy that said, and to this day, if you Google my name, the only case that comes up that says, I'm this crazy psychotic guy that woke up at 3 a.m. to frame 3 boys and all this other stuff is that case.
Well, I only laugh because that's another case that I've researched inside and out, and it's
okay. But nobody says, oh yeah, he was the only guy that said Richard Tewitt was not the guy.
Well, you also cut one of the boys loose.
Not only, I unarrested Josh Treadway.
Correct.
Because Escondido had arrested him. And John, did I arrest any of those 3 boys? And it was
no, you didn't work for the Escondido Police Department.
End of story. That was my boss up above you here. Okay. And so everybody's got me arresting these innocent kids and doing all this other crazy stuff. But here was my point. I asked one question to the DA, and then the AG refused to put me on the stand. And here was the question, or here was the comment I made. The most important witness in this entire case has never been interviewed. And at the time, it was Paul Finkst. And the now DA, Summer Steffen, was the case DA on the trial. And they both looked at me and said, what are you talking about? And I said, the most important witness has never, ever been interviewed. And they said, okay, what? Who? I said, the dog. They said, the dog? I said, yeah, think about it. You got the mother, the father, the brother, the sister, the victim, and a grandparent, and a dog in a home where a schizophrenic transient, who, by the way, his niece was killed in our city, Brooke Tewitt, homicide over, okay? And I said, are you telling me that this guy who's wearing a wool sweater, he's hiding out in that house between 12 and 15 minutes, according to the prosecution, and that there's a dog in the house at late hours in the morning while everybody's sleeping, and the dog doesn't know he's in there, and all the doors and windows are locked when the suspect allegedly leaves, but the dog just decides, hey, you know what? There's Pigpen here from Charlie Brown hanging out in the house. I'll just go ahead and hang out with him, or never mind, I'll ignore him. And I told the DA, you have the lab show me transfer of dog hair on this guy's wool sweater, and I'm in. Because even the victim, did you know she had dog hair in her hand?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So of
Yeah,
course.
I read the book Who Killed Stephanie Crow.
Right. Okay. But
Great book.
all of that got me in a lot of trouble. Okay. Next thing you know it, I'm one of the bad guys because I'm not going along with all this other crap. And lo and behold, I told them Richard Tuitt will be found not guilty. In the interim, they filed a civil suit against us, and it was cheaper for the city to, settle.
Yeah, they do it all.
Wayne Bennett, John knows who
They
I'm
do
talking
it all the time. It's got nothing to do with your culpability.
But meanwhile, I'm marked for the rest of my life in the internet as if I'm a dirty cop and all this other stuff. Okay. But guess what? I was right.
It also didn't help that you had the same exact haircut as the guy that was interrogating.
Yeah, that was Mark Risley. But everybody thought it was me. That was Escondido.
He had the McFluff too. But
yeah, absolutely.
If you look, you look similar, but it's not you in the video.
Yeah, exactly. But that's okay. Okay, because it comes with the job. And the other one was another guy named David Mick. My supervisor at that time, it wasn't John, came to me.
Story.
Because you were there. John was.
Yes, I was there, and I watched what unfolded with the same vivid sort of fascination as seeing a car on railroad tracks and seeing an approaching diesel. And Chris did his best to defuse this.
He was convinced that there was a different guy that had committed this murder. And by the way, it was a mother who was buried. Okay. Long story short, fast forward. You're going to arrest that guy. I said, no, I'm not. He goes, yes, you are. I said, I am not arresting him. I'm ordering you to arrest him. And I looked at him and I said, that's an unlawful order. And if you feel so strongly, you arrest him. And he did. Okay. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, okay, I got the real suspects, got them in the interview room, got a full confession, okay, found the body, all the other stuff, okay, how they did it, et cetera. And they ended up getting convicted. But when I got the confession, he was sitting in the monitoring room with the guy in jail now, okay? And in the monitoring room, she leans over and goes, boom, here it comes. Okay. I walked out and I walked in the hallway where our offices were, and I looked in and he's sitting there like this. And I looked in and I said, hey, Rick. Oops. Hey, Rick, you should 849 be that guy. What do you think? Okay. You should get over to the jail. He's been in jail for like 3 days. Get him out. And guess what? He had to run over and sign. 849 in California means, you didn't do it. We're unarresting you, basically, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the Reader's Digest version of how that whole thing went down. Okay. So, on both of those cases, I was the guy that unarrested people. And yet on the internet, I'm the guy that arrested them. And
also tried them and put them in prison. By the way, none of them ever went to prison.
No, and during the sentencing of the real suspects, the judge made a comment that had I not continued on the path that I was on, he would be sentencing an innocent man that day. I have the newspaper article. I'll send it to you.
Do it.
I will.
No, Richard Tuitt.
Yeah, Richard Tuitt. Yeah. Well, but the other one was David Mick, a guy named David Mick.
Scapegoats. That's what they were, scapegoats. Okay, so let's see. Would Social Security pension to be paid if missing till death?
My presumption would be yes, unless formally, but if there's a power of attorney, and whatever the Social Security amount might be, is that
it's
motivation?
Well,
I get Social Security. I can tell you, it's no.
well, that's what I was going to also ask too. Is that what life insurance? Is
That's
this
a good question.
is this an angle that is possibly being looked at as well?
It better be looked at.
Yeah, because it seems like a lot of I don't know, a lot of life insurance policies have very specific language in what gets paid out and what doesn't. Okay. I don't know, I don't know if that's the angle that this could be, but I have thought, like, what if there was some, like you said, who benefits from
If you don't have a corpse, then I'm relatively certain your life insurance is going to say, you have no proof this person's dead.
That's the problem. Right. But it's only been 21 days.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like we're 5 years down the road. And, and a lot of people ask me if I think that this investigation has been botched. I don't. I mean, I don't. First of all, I wouldn't know exactly how it would be botched, but it's 21 days. As investigators, is that a long time for you?
I solved a murder 6 months after it happened. You keep working it. And I'm not suggesting that the circumstances are the same. And people need to be able to differentiate between the genuine law enforcement work being done by the investigators as opposed to bungled statements or commentary from administrators that probably is not particularly adept. There's two entirely different worlds there.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. All right. Could there be a connection to her husband who was connected to Clinton? No. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you, Joneson, for gifting 5 memberships. It's very, very kind of you. Good to see you. And let's see. Are they looking into Savannah Guthrie's early investigative law reporting career, perhaps a motive, someone who was affected by her reporting? First of all, that is a very long time to hold a grudge. I don't know. I mean, what do you got? I mean, it's possible at this point, right?
I'm not going to say it's impossible, but why do that? It seems pretty oblique approach.
Yeah.
And you would want her, conceivably, let's accept the speculation that this person who was somehow harmed by Savannah years ago is seeking revenge. What good is the revenge if Savannah doesn't know who the person is that's getting revenge on her? Because part of the idea of revenge is that now you know that I did it. You shouldn't have done that to me.
Yeah, and then I'm going to throw a why at you.
Yeah.
Why? What? Right? Why impound Annie's car?
Yeah, I think
you see the depth of that just simple concept is, instead of going over here, right? If they have that car, in my opinion, they're on a track somewhere and everybody's chasing, the grudges from the law offices 50 years ago.
Well, and that's the thing too. And people were saying when we were discussing this that they said, well, we don't know if the car was returned. Well, I sure as hell would hope that it would be announced that the car was returned, because he was so adamant about saying they're not suspects. We've cleared them. Also, guess what? We returned their car. Leave them alone. Them impounding the car, them searching the home over and over and over wasn't by happenstance.
And maybe going back to the neighborhood tomorrow.
That's what I'm saying. It's not happenstance. So I'm not convicting anybody. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just, the optics of it are odd and are going to be questioned until it's, solved. In my opinion, DC is involved. Call and text, no coincidence. That's the guy from Los Angeles. Look, it's hard to disagree with that as well. Why call the brother or the son-in-law's phone? I don't know why I keep saying brother. Why
intrude yourself in the most celebrated, famous case in the world right now? Why would you say, this is what I want to get in the middle of with the FBI investigating it? So I'm inclined to agree that he needs to be seriously looked at.
Carlos got his car back.
Good point.
That is
excellent point.
I didn't even think of. I know that he did. I didn't even think about it. They returned all their stuff.
Yeah, they've impounded. Remember, we only have information that they impounded the car based on that picture that Ashley Bamfield put into the environment.
Yes,
okay?
Yes, yeah.
That it's Annie's car on that tow truck, and she put it out there to the world to see. In fact, I think I have a picture of it. But the point being, if that was true, and if it is true, and it seems like the sheriff keeps dodging that question, because my wife, who is a credentialed journalist, has asked, she's not a YouTuber, by the way, for the record. She's actually a journalist. Okay. Went to school. She got a degree that says journalism. Okay. Worked for LA Times and all this other stuff years ago. They won't even answer her. Why? If it's no big deal, just pick up the phone, because she's talked to the PIO. She told me her name, some gal. Hey, do you guys have any car in impound? Let me ask the sheriff. Crickets. We're not gonna comment on that. Okay. My wife, if you know her, calls back again the second day. Hey, same question. Crickets. She calls back a third day today. She called them again today. Hey, send it, and she's sending emails too.
Mm-hmm.
Crickets. Why is, it's so easy to say, yeah, we had the car in impound. We searched it, standard operating procedure at that time, and we released it. The family has it back. Thank you for calling. Appreciate you. Have a good day. Click. Oh, thank you. Well, that ends that thought process for her husband.
Right.
Okay. But
right.
We can't get an answer on that. And that is not complicated. That's not complicated.
You're right. I don't understand what, if he has cleared the family, which he issued a statement, which the FBI says, we don't have anything to do with that, because the FBI was asked about it too, and they said that's not, we're not involved with that. Whatever that means is a strange thing too. Isn't the foliage on top of the blood drops?
There are a couple of pieces of debris, but here's the thing: we don't know if the wind could have moved it. People walking on the porch could have moved it. So, and the other thing that, from what I could see of the foliage debris on top of the blood drops, it didn't look as if there was any transfer of the blood to the foliage. So it may have been dry.
Yeah. Anna says here, I think I like that. Bushman's only job was to get Nancy out of the house and take into a drop-off point. We focus on one person as opposed to others. It's a great comment.
Great point.
Yeah. It's very this is a conversation that if you go and listen to the interview room, I think the first with the panel with everybody, this is a discussion that was had in great length and depth. We won't really go into it here, but why was internet crimes against children at Annie and Tomasi's house that day? I mean, it's a great question. It's something that is still being looked at and wondered. People are still wondering why. We're waiting for door number 3, door number 4, and possibly door number 5 to open. So, you know, I would just say hang tight. Maybe we'll know more soon. Let's see. Was Masked Guy's accomplice on the door cam in the section of released video where it cuts from the guy at the bushes to suddenly being at the door? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Do you guys?
No, I mean, there's, you know, there are great people out there, you know, that are seeing other people potentially in the background and stuff. I've been convinced there's more than one from, you know, the beginning. I think, John, what do you
We
think?
agreed a couple nights ago that we feel it's a minimum of 2 and possibly a maximum of 5 involved in this.
Yeah.
Right.
Won't surprise us.
What about elder abuse? Did anyone look at Adult Protective Services card on Nancy Guthrie's door?
It's a great question.
It is a great question. It's
Or neglect from the caretakers.
well, so Jason, and thank you so much. If money inheritance was a motive by by a family member, and Nancy Guthrie had passed, wouldn't they want the body to be found quick so a payout could come sooner than later? Yeah, I would think so, but it's only been 21 days.
Yeah, you wouldn't need it immediately.
Yeah, right. I mean, first of all, that would raise a ton of suspicion. Hey, you ever see those datelines where somebody dies and the next day the wife's on the phone with the insurance company, go, he's dead, you know, and then they're going, I'm going to just note this to the police that
Yes.
she's been calling, or he or she's been calling, you know, a bunch of times. 21 days.
We just went through this with Dale Warner,
Yeah, that's true too.
who's
But-
on trial. If you can watch that trial.
Who is currently on trial, and he looks like such a sack, man. I cannot stand
And
that.
for the record, right, I worked on that case.
I know.
I
The
was
funny-
there. I was up there.
Did John know the story about when you were in the field with Billy and you told him you were an
I
insurance
don't know if I
adjuster?
ever shared it with him. He went 5150 on me.
He
I'm
said-
shocked whenever Chris misrepresents himself. But I will say this: you're also talking to 2 guys who went to a burglary, and he didn't have his dog, but there were burglars in the middle of the night. Told him that we were going to deploy the dog, and then we barked, and
Did
they
that?
surrendered.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Who barked? Which one did you both bark?
I don't remember. Did I bark, John?
It's probably Chris.
I think we both barked.
We both barked.
And the other thing is, at one point when they started to run, he said, "I'm going to deploy the dog," and then they proned out.
So I
Hey,
know where they-
lying to people is part and parcel of our tactics.
well,
Earth
that's
was-
kind of that's sort of what I was getting at earlier. You know, I'm not implicating or saying that I know that anybody's involved in this case. I don't know, but the sheriff could be lying too.
Well, he could be doing it deliberately to mislead people.
Sure.
I mean, we do this. It's a perfectly legal obligation to misrepresent information. Now, people may get upset by that, but in this real world we're dealing with, like Chris and I were both hostage negotiators. And I was grilled on the stand once that I had lied to this guy who had been holding his wife hostage and his ex-wife and a boyfriend, holding him hostage with a gun. And in front of the jury, this defense attorney made a big deal of, "You lied to my client, didn't you?" "Yeah, I did." If a life, and here's the thing, if there's a chance, however remote, that a life can be saved, I'll lie to anybody. You fly me to Vatican City, I'll lie to the Pope if we save a life. And so this is what we focus on.
Well, the Pope might lie to you too, John. I could see that happening. And let's see. I think there was one more. and then we can. So you, Chris, tell us a little bit about your show tomorrow. Tell us who's on. And
So tomorrow we have from the FBI, Maureen O'Connell, and then Dr. Dr. Ann Burgess. Those of you who know, she's, and then Gary is back tomorrow to talk about, and we're going to approach this. I was trying to get a hold of one more guy. His name is Paul Greenwood. He's from the district attorney's office in San Diego, but I think he's tied up.
Stellar panel.
yeah, it's going to be a great show. I mean,
of course we're going to miss John, but they want to, I want to focus this one primarily on elder abuse in terms of the psychological, and is doing some studying at Boston College about it, and she wanted to talk about it. So I thought,
well, John
and Maureen is just brilliant, as we all know. So
John needs to go to the costumes.
As is John, and everybody. If I could have a entire panel of 50 friends and family, and we could really assemble some interesting conversations, but it would go 8 hours.
Yeah.
8 hours.
Well, I tell you, I've been watching a lot of the coverage, and Maureen's been on many shows, and she's sharp. So, and obviously,
cookie. I've not met her, so tomorrow's gonna be the first night I meet her.
Yeah, she's been she's been covering this and giving. She's done really good. So it'll be a great show. John, I appreciate you so much for coming on, and I hope to have you on again. And I'm sure we're not done talking about this case.
No, I don't. We're done. And can I just mention I have a new book coming out. It'll be a little bit later this year, which covers some of these murder cases, these old murder cases. For those who don't know, I'm actually the author of 9 books, 5 of them cozy murder mysteries set in the world of collectible teddy bears. And I know that sounds strange, but I know an awful lot about teddy bears. And my wife and I at one point had 400 of them, and which is a little strange, but now I'm writing my memoirs, and they're on Amazon. They're Service with a Sneer, which is the first book. The second book is Beach Blanket Bedlam, which covers in Oceanside. And now the next book that'll be coming out is called Bring Out Your Dead, which is, and there's Buddy. So they're on Amazon. My name is John J. Lamb, and you'll probably see my my old murder mystery set in the world of teddy bears. So
and we will put those links on.
Go ahead.
We'll put your links in the description of the show.
Oh, thank you.
People can just go down there, hit the link, and you can get right to it. John has not only is he just a well-spoken, brilliant man, he's about as funny as they come. I mean, he's got a great sense of humor. Chris is all right, but John's funnier than Chris.
I had sadly a reputation for being a wise ass at the department. I'm still trying. I don't know where that came from, and I will go to my grave fighting that sort of belief that I'm scornful toward my betters.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can imagine.
But I wanted to thank you for having me on. This has been a wonderful discussion. Some excellent questions here, and it's always a delight to be on with you, Josh.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it. And Chris, awesome. Thank you for coming on as well. We were going to do this yesterday. I had something come up. I did a 7-mile hike also yesterday. 7-mile hike.
You, Josh.
And I got out and it's that was the farthest I've gone. It's been a long time, so I've been having a good time getting out there.
Good for you. We were able to take a walk today for the first day. Apparently, we may get more snow tomorrow here. So
yeah, well, it's the weather has been treacherous, but no matter what, I'm getting out there and doing it and having a good time. I tried to take Macho out, my 2 Frenchies, but the last time I tried to take Macho out for a walk, I got him. He has this like leather harness with like a strap, with like a rope strap. So I hook him up, and he grabs the leash, because when I'm holding, shakes it violently, throws up, and then falls asleep. So that was his walk.
Hey, you work off some serious calories throwing up and falling down.
Well, I'll tell you. So I just take, you know what I do? We have a little field over right behind my house. I just let him run out there. Just, go. He's not a walker. He just likes to do
Nor is my golden retriever. He's asleep here. So,
yeah. But dogs are the best. And we see Buddy there, the mascot of the interview room.
Buddy,
he's so cute.
The head comes up as I said his name.
Yeah, he can't hear. He can't because I got the headsets on, but
he looks very healthy.
He is. He's doing good. He's a nut job, and have a good night.
John's in Virginia. You're in Virginia, John?
I am in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, approximately 2 miles as the crow flies from the Blue Ridge Mountains.
That's where the Waltons were.
Actually, the Waltons were on the other side of the mountain, south of Charlottesville. And there's actually a museum there. Where I live is, I live about 100 yards from the South Fork of the Shenandoah River. And it's like I moved into a Hallmark card when my wife and I moved here 22 years ago with golden retrievers and cats and teddy bears. But I likely will not be staying here with the passing of my wife. So I'm going to go someplace.
I was very sorry to hear. I was sorry to hear about that. When we did an episode a while back up on the witness box, I remember you had to go abruptly because your wife was having issues.
She had Parkinson's disease, and it just became. I took care of her for years, and
my grandfather
December of 2024, and now she gave me a wonderful life, but I'm so I'll be relocating someplace. So
my grandfather, he ended up with Parkinson's and dementia, and I helped my grandmother take care of him. Because they were the ones that raised me, and it is a horrible degenerative disease, and it's a horrible thing to watch somebody go through. And I would say that it's just about as hard on the caretaker as it is on the person going through it. It affects everybody in every aspect of life.
Well, for her, Josh, she was a former I was married to a fingerprint expert and crime analyst.
Oh, awesome.
An extraordinary investigator. She didn't wear a badge, but she was an extraordinary, brilliant investigator. Yep. And the terrible thing about this disease is that she was acutely aware that her intellect, which had served her so wonderfully, was going away. Yeah. When she eventually went to the Lord, it was a blessing, and that I'm not trying to sound trite. It really was.
No, I know exactly what you mean, because when my grandfather, who served in the military for 31 years, he was first sergeant of an engineering company, heavy equipment mechanic. He was just he was everything. I looked at him. I just thought he was the greatest. And I came home one day, and he had his mother's picture he had taken off the wall. And he was holding it and crying. And I'll never forget it. And he died shortly after that. And he was telling me that he was ready to go. And I kept telling him, I said, don't talk like that. Don't talk like that. And he says, when you get this age, you'll understand. And I'll never forget. I'll never forget it. So I am very sorry to hear about that. But yes, it's almost like a release, it's
there's no question about it. No question about it.
It's hard to watch, but God bless you guys. And so, Chris, tomorrow, you have it set already, so we'll put the link in the description as well. Hit that notification bell for Chris.
And we hit 34 million views today.
Wow.
That's pretty extraordinary.
Wow.
Well, it's because of the audience, you guys. It's not about the subscribing number. It's always about those views, those numbers. And we can't thank you enough for, helping us gain this success. And hopefully we're giving you, honest, direct,
Useful information,
material. Yeah.
honest information.
Thank you
And
for your support, everybody, all you lab rats and et cetera. And Josh, thank you for your support. I mean,
Yeah,
you've-
6,000 in the
you've
room.
been part of the
tonight.
journey, and John, vice versa.
Yeah.
We can't.
yeah, I'll be watching you tomorrow night, Chris.
It'll be
Yep.
fun.
And I'll have you guys back on, and we'll discuss this case again soon.
Okay.
That's great.
Aloha.
Nice.
Talk to you in a bit.
All right. Thank you much. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Good night. All right. So there it is, guys. An awesome show. Great guest. Thank you, chat. Thank you, everybody that was here. Thank you for the memberships and donations and all that. You guys are so awesome. Make sure to check out the interview room. We will put John's link for his books in the description. Check him out. Just a brilliant guy. Such a nice gentleman. And I love having him on. Also Chris as well. I thought tonight's show was fantastic as always. So you guys are awesome. Enjoy your Saturday night and your Sunday. And guess what, guys? It's baseball season. I love that too. All right, guys, take care.